Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more, I guess, buckshot slash predator pattern testing. And we've definitely got a very interesting loading out here to test. It's one that one of you guys sent in, and we're on a little bit of a mission with today's video as well. These shells aren't going to have their full-on series since we've already done testing with some similar stuff to it, but these are a load that I plan on hunting with here in the next few weeks as early firearms doe season comes in here in Virginia. So I need to know what they're capable of through my setup so I know what kind of range limitations and stuff like that I have, and that's what we're going to figure out here today. Now, as for the load we're going to be running, huge thank you to Nick for reaching out and wanting to send me some of these shells. They are not cheap, so massive thank you to him. He didn't want me to do a full video series on these anyway. He sent them to me, said he enjoys the channel, and he wants to see me hunt with them, and I am definitely curious to see what they can do on a deer. But they are some of the Salt Creek triple threat shells. These ones in particular are a 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce load of TSS T shot, moving about 1200 feet per second. These are a little bit of a custom load of their triple threat shells. Typically they're a 3-inch shell with a little more payload than that, and we have done testing with those previously. They are some fantastic and super impressive performing shells, but he custom ordered these because he said he gets some great performance from them, so there'll be a little less recoil. Either way, a TSS T is a very stout loading, absolutely capable of taking a deer or hog or anything like that. So we'll see what these 2 3/4 inch triple threat shells can actually do, since I plan on hunting with these. As for the setup I'm going to use, I brought out my Remington 1187. Since I have not ever taken a deer with this gun, it's something I want to do. I've taken just about everything else with it, but no deer yet. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, and for the choke, Salt Creek suggests, I believe, an improved cylinder for their TSS T. That's what we're going to start with, is the stock improved cylinder. I do have a modified choke that I want to run as well, and there really isn't any need to go any tighter than that. These are great patterning shells, and with a TSS T, you kind of don't want to go any tighter than a modified choke either. So we'll run the improved cylinder in the mod and see what we can get for pattern, and I want to shoot them into some water jugs and see what kind of penetration and energy we actually get out of them. I've already done a penetration test with the 3-inch version of these, and they're super impressive, but I still want to see what this exact setup will do if I'm going to hunt with it. So maybe a little bit less formal of a video today, but I figured I need to test these, so I might as well just turn the camera on and let you guys come along. That way we know what our actual hunting load can do. So let's get you guys a view of these targets. We'll shoot our improved cylinder and modified pattern at 40 yards and see which combination pattern's a little tighter, and that's what we're going to go with for a hunting setup. And for me, 40 yards and in is about where I want to keep these shells at, so that is more than good enough of a range to see what they're going to do. So let's take a couple shots and see which one pattern's better from my setup. All right, so let's take a quick peek at our chrono here. The box claim is 1200. We had 1178, 1179, and 1198 for an average of 1185. So 15 feet per second under their box claim. I'm calling that pretty much right there where we're supposed to be at. That's plenty enough for these shells and more than enough energy for a deer hunt or something out to 40 yards with a TSS T shot. But let's walk down there and see what kind of patterns we got from our different chokes. All right, so now let's check out our targets here and see which combination actually patterned the best. And there is most certainly a clear winner here, absolutely. Now, after seeing our improved cylinder and mod choke patterns, I decided to throw in a wild card over here with our cylinder bore choke as well, which we'll take a look at here in a second. But we'll start off with the first choke we shot, which was our improved cylinder. That's a nice pattern. There might be one little bit of a void right dead center, just above that white dot, but it's a nice condensed spread of pellets. We had 22 pellets on the paper. That's 15.5 inches of spread. Absolutely a huntable combination. And fair warning, spoiler alert, whatever, that's the winner right there. So that is the combination that I'm going to hunt with. And out to 40 yards, it's more than capable of getting the job done on a deer all day long. So now here's our modified choke, and we clearly went the other direction here. A little bit too much choke constriction, kind of blew the pattern apart just a little bit. That would make for good coyote medicine since it gives you a little more leeway, but it's just a little bit too broad for a deer hunt. We had 24 pellets on the paper with a 39-inch spread, and that is from that top left corner to that bottom right corner down there. Still not a horrible pattern for a predator hunt, but our improved cylinder was by far the winner compared with these two, that's for sure. So now we'll go over to our cylinder bore pattern. After seeing what the last two patterns did, I figured, why not? This is going to be a hunting setup of mine, so I want to know what it's going to do through several different chokes, and I figured maybe going to a little bit less choke might also help. So I went to a cylinder bore. We had 21 pellets on the paper, and it is better than our mod choke, but it is not as good as our improved cylinder. We had 21 pellets on the paper with a 26.25-inch spread, and it is a little bit blotchy and stringy, so definitely not the winner either. It's better than the mod choke did, but by far and away that improved cylinder is the clear best combination. And just for a little bit better reference, there is the deer template. That is a direct trace cutout of an average sized deer. We clearly kept a lot of them right through the vitals and shoulder area. So yeah, out to 40, we're going to be just fine. And if we take a 25 or 30 yard shot, everything is going to be condensed down into one nice circle right there through the vitals. So easily a deer huntable combination for me. So that's what I'm going to go with as far as choke goes. And now I know out to 40 yards, I'm plenty good enough. But now let's head over to our water jugs and see what we can actually do for some penetration here. Alright, so behind me here, I have 10 water jugs set up in a row. Based on previous experience, I have a decent idea on what we're going to see here. So 10 jugs should be enough to get the job done, but it's definitely going to show us what this particular loading at that particular velocity actually has for penetration and energy capability. And I'm telling you, it's going to be pretty impressive. So 10 jugs, I'm going to walk it back to roughly 30 yards with the stand locations that I have in mind to hunt with this load here in a couple weeks. Shots are going to be between 25 and 35 yards. So that 30-yard number should keep a good number of pellets in our jugs and give us a very realistic penetration capability. Although it is water, it's not a perfect substitute for actual tissue material, but that should get us at least a good idea of what we're looking at. So let's take our shot into some jugs and see what we get. Alright, so from 30 yards, we definitely had more than enough penetration to take a deer with it, but I believe we saw a touch less than what we got with the 3-inch version. I think there might be a little bit of a velocity difference between the two, since I believe with those shells we got into jug number 6 or maybe poked into the first of 7, but with this one, we had complete penetration through 1, 2, 3, 4, and into the 5th jug. However, there is nothing poking through into this 6th jug, and we have pellets stuck in number 5. I can feel and I believe I can see down in there, as well as a few down in number 4. So it seems like 4 to 5 jugs is about what we get. And considering that regular old lead double-aught buck is typically about 3, sometimes you poke into the 4th, we definitely have more penetration than what that gave us. And these pellets aren't going to deform either. So let's pour these jugs out and see what our pellets actually look like. Alright, so we ended up catching 3 pellets. These 2 were in jug number 4. This one was in jug number 5. And we did actually put a tiny little puncture hole in jug number 6 here, as you can see right at the tip of my thumb. But it did not actually penetrate. It's just a dimple enough to barely crack the jug. So almost 6 jugs of penetration at 30 yards from a TSS T pellet. That is more than enough for what I'm going to use these for. And if we're taking a shot at 20 yards, I mean, we could blow through 3 deer with that kind of penetration. But we'll take these couple pellets into the inside bench, we'll weigh them, we'll measure them and stuff like that, and we can calculate some energy numbers as well. And real quick, before we actually get to the weighing of the pellets and stuff, here are the wads. They all look very much the same no matter what choke we used, so nothing to be concerned with there, and they're nothing special, but they do seem to work pretty well for their purpose. And here's what one of those pellets looks like. It's a nice round pellet, but you can see there is a little tiny flat spot on it. I don't know if that's from the manufacturing process or from the pellets kind of getting smashed into each other right when we fired the shell. Either way, it's nothing too concerning here. It's a nice TSS T shot pellet. For those that were curious about the size, the diameter of these pellets, all of them that I recovered measured exactly 0.195, so at least they're very consistent in their overall diameters. For the weight of all three of the pellets, they all measured the exact same 18 grains, so they were all very consistent there as well. And we can plug that in here to our calculator and actually get some measurements on what kind of energy we got. The pellets were 18 grains apiece. Our average velocity was 1185 feet per second. So that gave us 56 foot-pounds of muzzle energy per each pellet. So if we move those numbers over to our calculator, that gave us 1,344 pounds of muzzle energy. It may not be anything super impressive for numbers, but it's pretty much exactly half of what we saw in the 3-inch version of these shells. It's half the pellets, half the payload, and it's still more than good enough to get the job done on a deer within your typical bow or shotgun type of ranges out to 40 yards. The penetration is still perfectly fine. And just for a reference point for the people who may not have a good reference on this, typically the 90 grain bullet that I run out of my 243 at roughly 2,800 feet per second is about 1,500 and change as far as muzzle energy goes, and a typical 9 pellet double aught at 1,250 or so is 1,700 somewhere right in that general range. So this isn't too far off, and if we're hitting them with all the pellets, it's plenty good enough for a deer hunt, especially within our circumstances. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that combination right there? It's definitely going to get the job done out in the woods here in a couple weeks, soon as early doe season comes in. So we're definitely going to be filming some hunting videos with this shell. That way I can see for my own self how a large TSS pellet like this performs on deer-sized game. And hopefully it'll give you guys a little bit of a reference as well if you were kind of on the fence or curious about a shell like this for deer. Because even something like 4-buck, a lot of people can kind of be on the fence about. Some are perfectly fine with it, and some want a larger pellet. But these are absolutely capable of getting the job done. These are a whole different ball game than a steel or a lead T-shot. TSS is way different. You got way more penetration. You got way more energy. It's a pellet that doesn't deform, so it drives deep. And I have no doubt that inside of 40 yards, this load is going to blow right through a deer. Even if you hit shoulder blade and stuff like that, I bet all the pellets still come out the other end. So at least now we know that my 1187 with an improved cylinder choke is probably the best option for the kind of hunt that I plan on using these for. And like I mentioned earlier, we're not going to turn these particular 2 3/4 kind of custom loads into a big long test video series. I want to save a few for hunting purposes. And Nick, again, big thank you to him for sending these over. They are not cheap to get, that's for sure. But he didn't really want them turned into a big long test series either. He said hunt with them and have fun. So that's exactly what we're going to do. But I figured, hey, I need to test them to see what they're going to do before I take them out on a hunt, like I always preach to you guys. So let's turn the camera on, because some of you may be curious as well. But I guess leave all your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of Salt Creek's or anybody else's large TSS pellets like that? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Have you actually hunted with a load like that? And what kind of performance have you seen on an actual deer or hog or anything like that? Let me know all that down below. And keep an eye out. Within the next few weeks, we're going to be filming some hunting videos with these as well. And if we see a deer, we're going to try and take a deer with them. So keep an eye out for that, because it is on the way. But with that being said, I've got some more regular testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it. So I'll see y'all in the next one.